So Prema, it's a privilege to be talking with you today because you are leading the entire developer app store ecosystem, right, in terms of in business development. So you're representing Google in many ways in terms of all these platforms we've been talking about. One of the things I opened with was the fact that a lot of this is coming together for the first time. Natural language processing, machine learning, right, intent with search and bots. And the fact that there's 4 billion people, or whatever the number is, in chat format and getting used to that personalized format. Can you talk about, as a preface, Allo is coming out this summer. We don't know when. You can't comment on when Allo and Duo and Home are coming out, or when, if they're coming combined. But we're interested in what do you find is going to be the most interesting use cases that come out of this convergence?
Absolutely. I'm sorry folks can't hear me. I'm going to project as much as possible. Where I sit on top of one of the largest app stores in the world. And that gives a certain level of perspective on what both large developers and small developers need. And the number one thing that gets talked about is discovery and distribution. To me, the combination of these technologies opens up new channels for discovery distribution. And I think that's what is interesting. So where we sat and looked at what is needed, we thought about three things. One is smarts, two is assistant, and three is emotion or expression. And I know there's a lot that has been talked about personalities and other things, and we'll talk about how we've been thinking about it in maybe slightly different ways. The first thing we thought about is smarts. Now, if you think about smarts, I know I've been listening to the panels here, and one thing that came out, a theme that came out, is this overall thing to say, does it sound authentic? Me, for example, when I chat with my family in India, we speak Hinglish. It's a combination of Hindi and English, right? So if my bot responds for me, smarts is about smart responses that you can very quickly do, one quick response, which is what your chatbots need to know or your assistants need to know, it won't sound like me. And the same thing holds good for the brand. Does that sound like you? And so we are spending a lot of time. We built a system called the Expander, which is basically a set of neural networks that is actually learning based on chat messages from various different people, and trying to figure out how do this combination of persons or people and brand sound, and therefore what is an appropriate answer. For example, I might sign off as saying lots of pyar, which means lots of love, which is not something that is easily learned or understood, right? It's going to learn. Second, I suppose most of you use Google Photos, at least a lot of people in the world do. Yeah. And so we also have the ability to understand images and respond to images. Think of what that will do if you have a shopping catalog tomorrow. How does somebody respond to an image? Do I love a dress or not? Do I like this shoe? Do I find this too modern, too this thing? How do you engage with an image? So it knows how to respond to an image. So that's about smarts. Assistant is what we have been working on for as long as Google's been around, to understand queries. As you might have seen, very early on, you have to have very specific queries. And now you can even have pronouns in your queries. You could say, who is the president of the United States? How tall is he? And it knows who the pronouns are. Now, the same thing is necessary as you go into the bot world to understand context. And if you add that to maps and the 3D world, I think there is an interesting combination of technologies that are coming together, which we are excited about from an app and game developer perspective. So what does it mean for apps? And I'm sure that everybody is like gearing up for a little bit of there is a little bit of a tension here. No, actually not. When I work with developers, my number one goal is to try to figure out how to drive the right channel for the right use case, right? So let's take, for example, there's an example. Lots of people have talked about Pizza Hut here today.
Yeah.
Let's take Domino's. Domino's has a chatbot, which is on Amazon Alexa. You can order a pizza through Alexa when you're at home.
Right.
Domino's also has an app which can do normal ordering. Now, Domino's came up with a much reduced app called the Zero Touch Ordering app, which is just a dial. You click on it, you do nothing.
Yeah.
You will be scared for a minute. Within 30 seconds, your most prevalent order has been placed, and within 30 minutes, the pizza is in your home. What does all of this mean? Number one is for somebody who's at home wanting to order. Number two is for somebody who's discovering, maybe there's a whole group and they need to order different things. And number three is something where you are ordering all the time and you're a very loyal Domino's customer. You have downloaded the app and you do a one click. So there are different use cases for different people.
Got it. So on the second two, wouldn't there be an argument that you could actually, if you're very loyal, move to the chatbot, so that you can just speak into, and you referred to, and Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Google, was very generous in saying that Amazon had created this excitement with a conversational interface. Why not just speak into an Amazon Echo or open a bot to order that pizza every day?
Depends on
why go to an app, right?
Depends on where you are. Candidly, when I was listening to the last panel, I just ordered a dress because I have to go to a party tomorrow.
Yeah.
And okay, they can't hear me yet.
No, we don't hear.
All right.
Better?
Okay,
All right, great. Interesting question, right? While listening to the previous panel, I ordered myself a dress. This is a fact. Now, I don't think I would have spoken to anything at that minute, right? Three things happened. Guilt, which is a website and an app that I use constantly, knows that a brand that I like told me that there was a really good discount and was in my size. 2 clicks, and I had it right in the middle of all of you, which is an interesting use case. There is a use case that I could have been in a chat thing, talking to a friend of mine to say, what are you wearing? And she's like, looks like the theme is red. Okay, are you wearing a dress or are you just wearing red shirt? Now, there's an interesting way to think about, should the bot then wake up, which is what we think about an assistant, that I'm having a conversation with you as a friend thinking of where are we going for this party, what are we going to wear?
Right.
And the bot could say, here are some 10 red dresses which are on sale wherever, or this is 10 red dresses that might be suitable, right? Now, these are two very different use cases. Mm-hmm. Guilt managed to get me to buy this dress for 2 clicks.
Right.
It has all my payment information and everything else, and I didn't need to speak. But in another situation, I might want to discuss with you what I want to wear.
Right.
And that could allow a bot to come in with recommendations. Right?
Yeah.
And these are different examples.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think to be clear, I don't think you have to be defensive in any one of these platforms because you are coming up with Allo. You have a play in apps on the mobile web, bots everywhere. So it's not like you need to support one channel or another. But one of the conversations I heard downstairs was, I don't know if anyone caught the conversation with Oren from AppsFlyer, but basically saying that intent is the most important feature for discovery. Right, and then some of the people on the panel disagreed vehemently, saying, I think the guy from Trivago was basically saying, hey, with all the data that we have, if we have an existing relationship with somebody, that we have the ability to suggest and to not necessarily need a search bar, but to actually preempt, suggest, predict when somebody needs it and actually go to them. So I think you were going somewhere, Purnima, at the start when you were talking about smarts and what you're working on. But I guess the question is, where, with this platform change and Amazon already having this lead, as Sundar pointed out, with the conversational interface, where does Google maintain differentiation outside of search? Is there anything you can talk about there? And I think you were going somewhere on the smart side.
I think the three things that I'll repeat because most people couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
From Smart's perspective, it's all about natural language processing.
Right.
And we're spending a lot
do you feel like you lead there?
Yes, I do think that from a localization perspective, image processing perspective, as well as understanding and totally like figuring out how I speak versus somebody else speaks, I truly think we have a lead.
Okay.
From a search in terms of just an assistive aspect, the knowledge base, this has been built over 15 years. There is no shortcut to building a knowledge base. And I truly think that that is another area where I think Google has a lead, just in terms of the efficacy of search results that almost everybody uses.
Okay. Can you talk about the element of personality? So this is one of these claims that we've heard today, right, from Robert Hoffer, that personality is important, and he was asking the panel members about their views on personality. And so there's different elements of what personality is. Now, Google has a specific personality, whether it likes it or not. Google has, I'm feeling lucky, and then, would you know evil, but then it's reflected in some of the product. Smarter Child had a very different personality, but can you talk a little bit about going forward? What is the personality necessary to have that relationship continue?
I do think that with any kind of engagement, there needs to be something that feels natural and doesn't feel forced. And everyone who used any kind of technology that you feel you're going to go back to knows that implicitly. We were talking, this is nothing to do with bots or technology, but let me give you an example. We were talking to the guys at Instacart, right? And when Instacart first wrote their app, they thought to themselves, oh, this is about grocery delivery. I need to make sure that I understand that this person is real, that they're not sending my car to some random place, that I have all the credit card information. I know that I have vetted this person before I can tell them what I can deliver. This is no talking, nothing, right?
Yeah.
Let's take a very simple thing. Grocery delivery can't be more mundane than that. 3 pages of onboarding flow to get a response saying, we don't deliver to your area. What did Instacart do? They fundamentally decided that that disappointment is more expensive than not knowing whether this is a real person. Right? So today, if you go in, they've completely flipped the model. They ask the information when you need it. All you do is you give your zip code, not obvious when you start designing an app. Go down, it tells you the stores that you have been. Now you could imagine a bot being designed along these lines. That's why I'm giving you these examples, because apps have been further along in doing this. Tells you, if it's not delivering, tells you very simply, sorry, we won't deliver, give an email, we will respond to you. If you do deliver, it gives you the stores. If you have ordered, it orders the stores in the sequence that you have ordered. If you have ordered, they will tell you the items that you have ordered. In 2 clicks, you could do your weekly grocery shopping. That's it. Now, that level of sophistication needs to come into conversational UIs to start with.
Yeah.
If it is not just something that is purely entertaining. Because at the end of the day, you start initially with novelty, then you go into interactivity to say, when I first came into this country, none of the voice response systems could even understand my accent, and it was really annoying. I had to repeat 1,000 times to get myself understood, right? So there is that,
So when did you come? I wouldn't take it personally because they didn't understand mine.
Yeah.
Like 5 years ago.
So
it switched about a year ago.
Well, I've been in this country for 15 years, but it took a long time, and it was very annoying.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my friends who, in India, the V and P's, etc., are very different when we pronounce because we round it up.
Yeah.
And he started saying P as in psychology. Just because he was so annoyed, but you get the picture.
Yeah.
Anyway, coming back, there is interactivity to know whether the interaction is completed in ways that is, but eventually people want to reach to a productive outcome. And this is something that I think is important for everybody to put your head around. Irrespective of what your design is, whether you're looking at it from an app perspective, a bot perspective, or an instant app perspective, and we'll talk about that in a second, you are having a trust handshake when this happens. And if that handshake doesn't happen, you have to work very, very hard to bring people back in.
Yeah.
So eventually it's about productivity. I know, Matt, you and I talked about this interesting conversation. Panera Bread, for example, we were having a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And they were trying to figure out what is the role of all these technologies. Because when you sit in front of something like a Panera Bread, now they're trying to figure out, how do I represent my brand? How do I create value for my user? And what is the right kinds of technologies to use to do this? So 3 things came out. One, they were realizing that their biggest value that they provide is the fact that it is actually good fast food. That they've taken out all unnatural, like what do you call artificial, flavors, artificial, colors, whatever else from their entire menu, right? Now, they wanted to know how would they communicate this. This would be an interesting challenge for all of you here who are technology experts to say, would you recommend an app, a bot, a website, an ad? What would you tell them?
Yeah.
And how would you think about somebody who hasn't yet found them?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because I do.
Are you going to talk about, because
Yes.
I want to watch time, but is this getting into instant apps?
Yes.
Okay, because I'd like to go into instant apps because you're making a big deal out of instant apps,
Yes.
and just want to know why, right? Because
Correct.
Facebook is over here saying they've got tens of thousands of developers working on bots. Amazon's got tens of thousands, and now can you give us an update of how many people are using instant apps?
Well, we have thousands of developers who have signed up. It's still a beta program.
Thousands. Okay.
Yeah, we have thousands of developers signed up with interest building it
And
right
that's
now.
in about a month and a half since,
Yeah,
or two.
since I/O.
Yeah, since
so
I/O.
it's like,
So a month and a half, right? So that's,
yeah,
that's
so
okay.
it's a pretty impressive clip. So let's talk about the question about how would you reach your users, coming back to things.
Yeah.
Matt asked me about, okay, here's Wingstop, who wants to sell chicken wings. They're launching?
Yeah.
All right.
No, so they've launched. So actually, they're first quick service restaurant company to launch a bot. Right. So a lot of companies have said they have, like Burger King, but actually these guys are live on Facebook, and they're speaking tomorrow. But yeah.
Okay, excellent. So 3 possible ways that a user would know Wingstop, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking to, let's say there are 2 people sitting down having a conversation. I'm texting my spouse, meeting running late, what are we going to do for dinner? This is a messaging interface.
Yeah.
How about chicken wings? Messaging,
Yeah.
right? Now the question comes up, should there be an assistant to say, how about Wingstop? You're not yet talked to Wingstop.
Right.
You don't yet know about Wingstop. Maybe you have some other wings restaurant.
And that's what you're going to do.
Interesting. Correct. This is where you think about an assistant, right?
Yeah.
Now think about a slightly different use case. You tell me, hey, guess what? I had this most amazing wings.
Yeah.
You should check it out.
Yeah.
Again, messaging interface.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, send me a link.
And that's the instant app.
Yes, you send me a link to an app with the recipe that is what you love among all the different options in Wingstop. I don't need to download the app to see it. What does that do for me? Why do I care? Should it be a website? The interactivity in apps fundamentally creates a different user experience.
Right.
Fundamentally creates a different user experience. You can flip from left to right. You can, do, when an app has been designed, you have all the capabilities to know how to use it. Or there could be a bot,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So from instant apps, what we are looking at is that most people find the notion of your brand through either recommendations or at a point in time where you may not have installed the app. I am stuck in the airport. Plane got delayed or canceled. Need a room in San Francisco. I search for room in San Francisco. There's hotels.com, hotels tonight. Interestingly, for those of you who don't know, here's a little pro tip.
Pardon, sorry,
Yeah,
we're actually,
yeah.
we've flown through 20 minutes.
Oh,
so
I'm sorry.
We actually
Yeah.
got to wrap up.
Yeah.
She's going to chase us up.
Okay,
But I
great.
can't.
Yes, but can I give the pro tip for everybody?
Yeah.
Sure.
Hotels Tonight gives you a special discount if you book it from the airport than if you get out and book it in the city. Just so that you know, they do take a context. So maybe there's one big takeaway from this conversation when you go. If your flight gets canceled, book the hotel room from the airport contextually, and you will get a bigger discount. All right.
All right.
With that,
All right, cool.
thank you.
Pardon that. Thank you very much for joining us. Yeah, it's great.